Welcome to Health Coach for Women, a podcast where we explore alternative and holistic solutions to better health and wellness through intentional living. Now, here's your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Health Coach for Women, a podcast where we explore alternative and holistic solutions for better health and wellness. And I'm your host, Marsha. Thank you so much for joining me today. Of course, now, I always have a quote for you, but before we get started, before we get into that, please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Now, last week we talked about the thyroid gland, right? And so I wanted to do a continuation on that because if we have thyroid issues, we want to now see how what we can do, first of all, to prevent it, and how we can restore or heal our thyroid, right? But let me just say this quote. True healing begins when you nurture your mind, your body, and spirit with balance, intention, and love. This is anonymous. All right. So I like that, right? So we have to nurture our body, our mind, and our spirit with balance, intention, and love. And for me, I like to use the word harmony. So I would say in spirit with harmony, intention, and love, right? Because we need to be in harmony, right? Our body needs to be in harmony, right? So I like that. All right, so let me get into today's topic, okay? So last week I talked about the thyroid. This week's topic is healing your thyroid naturally. I would like to say it's a part 2. How you can heal your body, your thyroid gland, particularly naturally. Now, last week we talked about the thyroid gland, right? And I'm just going to do a quick recap on it. I'm not going to spend a whole length of time going into the full detail of the thyroid and all of its functions, but we talked about that it's important for metabolism regulation, right? And it is a butterfly gland that's located in front of the neck, right? And it creates hormones. It creates many hormones in our bodies, right? T4 and T3, right? I talked about that. It helps with growth and development. The heart and circulatory system, mood and cognitive function, reproductive health, bone health, right? I talked about all of these things in the last episode. So it is a key regulator in metabolism, right? And it affects almost every cell and organ in your body, right? So this is why it's so important, right? And I mentioned about getting your labs checked, right? Checking your labs, making sure that, your levels are within normal range, right? And the lab work, and you can also check, it'll show you, you're in your lab. If you have MyChart, most systems now, they're using like this MyChart system. I think it's Epic where they use MyChart and you can see all your lab work, right? And they'll provide the ranges for you, right? The ranges may vary from state to state, but again, you want to be within that range, right? And if you're concerned about anything that maybe if you're a little below, like I told you, I said my labs, they said it was within range, although on the chart it says it was slightly below. And I spoke to the nurse practitioner and she said everything was normal. Okay, but I'm still going to check, right? I'm still going to check further just to make sure that everything is okay. Don't be afraid to go deeper. Right? Don't be afraid to go deeper. So now let me get into that. All right. Let me get into this whole thing here. So remember also I talked about the goiter, right? And goitrogens and foods that impact the thyroid gland, right? I talked about this last week. You can have an iodine deficiency, right? But there's also foods that can infect your iodine levels, right? Now, there's toxins that can impact the thyroid, right? And those toxins are halogens, right? Such as fluorine, chlorine, and bromine, right? Bromine is a food additive found in food as well as industrial products. And when I talked about, I think on an episode some months back, I talked about food ingredients that can impact your health, right? And food dyes, right? food dyes as well. These are all these food colorants and additives and preservatives that can impact your health, right? Fluorine and chlorine, they're in your water, right? The fluoride is in your toothpaste, right? So we want to make sure that we are doing things that we can avoid as much as possible, adding a filter, right? Adding a filter. But these things we have to, in order to really start healing, we really need to look at the source. We really need to look at the solution, right? What is causing it? We have to be our own little private health investigator when it comes to our health and our own wellness. Now, iodine supplements can make your autoimmune disease worse if you are low on iodine. I just wanted to make that clear. Iodine supplements can make your autoimmune disease worse if you are low on iodine. Now, this is, of course, if you would have been diagnosed with the autoimmune disease, right? Well, let's get to a plan now, right? So I'll use myself as an example. I've gotten my lab results, okay? For me, I'm going it based on a pattern, history. So if you've never done your labs before, if you haven't really tracked things with your lab levels, following it, make this the time to do so, right? So for me, I noticed that I'm within range. Now I'm slightly below. So for me, I want to track that, right? I want to track that. And why? Why is that happening, right? Will you always find the exact solution, the exact cause? Maybe not, right? But we have to do things that we can do to strengthen our immune system and heal ourselves in the best way possible with the right foods, the right habit, right? And having the right mindset, right? I would say it should be reversed, right? The right mindset, the right habits, the right food choices, right? And the right foods. So what would be an action plan to help coming up with to help heal our thyroid, right? And like I said, using myself as a test subject, right? I would say, well, what would be the plan? And you can follow this for yourself, but based on what my test lab show, right? Well, a good action plan would be what? Of course, finding a doctor, being in communication with your healthcare provider, right? Asking questions, not being afraid to ask questions, not being afraid to go deeper, right? So you can take the antibody test, thyroid peroxidase, AB, right? And be tested that way, right? And there's a reverse T3 because what happens is the liver, right? Your T4 is what helps to convert, right? What helps to convert into your T4 converts to T3. Okay, so just so that you are aware of that. Now, it could be a problem with the conversion. Using myself as an example, maybe my TSH was normal, right? But maybe there's something wrong with the conversion part, right? Based on what I'm reading and what I'm learning, right? Maybe there could be something wrong with the conversion, right? And what could be causing that? Maybe some things that I'm eating, right? Maybe some things that I'm consuming, right? Maybe I haven't been paying attention to some of those ingredients because sometimes I'll do that, right? But I don't know yet, right? I don't know yet. But maybe there's absolutely nothing wrong. But just to be on the safe side, like I said, why are the levels going lower, right? So this could be a time to now looking at diet, right? Looking at my food ingredients even more. And for me, listen, I'm not saying that you should obsess and go crazy, but you want to be concerned. You want to know things ahead of time. That's why it's called preventive medicine, right? So here's an action plan, right? Finding a doctor, finding a doctor maybe who practice integrative wellness incorporated with Western medicine, right? Having a low carb, high fat diet, right? Low carb, high fat diet, because remember, some of the symptoms are weight gain and things like that, right? I went over all of this before. So if you haven't checked out last week's episode, I advise you to do so. Look at last week's episode. All right. Avoiding tap water. Why? It has chlorine in it, fluoride, right? Or get a filter, right? Have a filter that filters these things out. Remember, I said the liver converts and detoxifies, and it converts the T4 into T3, right? So for me, maybe there's a problem with the conversion process. I don't know yet, right? So stress and inflammation, right? If you have stress and inflammation, that can be an issue, right? It becomes what happens. The more stress and inflammation you have in your body, the more T3 becomes useless in the body, right? Maybe that can be it. Maybe not on the stress part. I try my best to stress less. I try my best not to stress, right? But maybe the inflammation. You guys know that I have osteoporosis, right? Arthritis. So maybe it could be that, right? Again, we don't know. But these are the factors. These are the things that we need to fix. And look, listen, you guys know your own body, what you're experiencing in your body. So you gotta be your own private investigator, right? Along with working with the doctor, right? Along with working with your healthcare professional, right? What about what's going on with the gut? There has to be a process in which you can do, right? So of course it's finding that doctor, finding that health, getting tested, right? Getting tested. Okay, they say maybe you're slightly below, but you're experiencing the symptoms, right? You're experiencing all those symptoms that I mentioned from last week's episode, right? Weight gain, maybe depression, anxiety. Maybe you have the bulging eyes. Maybe there is achy joints, right? Pain in the joints, trouble sleeping, fatigue, all of these things. It's a whole list.
If you are struggling with health issues like chronic pain, being held back by past traumas, or feeling overwhelmed and hopeless, please know there is hope. There is help. Transcendence, a woman's guide to healing and self-love for better health, happiness, and abundance, is a blueprint to help you get your life back and reclaim your health. Within its pages, you'll learn how to elevate your existence by shifting your mindset toward the positive, focusing your energy on what's really important, using gratitude to feel deep appreciation, changing your gene expression through epigenetics, building resilience, and living in a state of flow, feeling love overflow within. Go beyond an ordinary life. Transcend. Buy it now.
Well, listen, you want to go through the process, right? You want to eliminate some of these factors of what it can be. First, see where you are, right? Could it be a problem with your T3 or your T4? Maybe. Is there an issue with the conversion? Maybe, right? Are you experiencing some of the symptoms that I mentioned, right? Maybe you are. Maybe you're experiencing most of those symptoms. It could be a problem with the thyroid, right? Are you experiencing more stress, right? Do a check off. Are you experiencing more stress? Are you experiencing more inflammation? Maybe there's something going on there. What can we do? We got to reduce stress, right? We have to reduce stress. We have to reduce the inflammation, right? Taking those turmeric shots, right? Warming up and having the turmeric shots and warming it up, right? Add some ginger, your turmeric. If you want to add a little lemon, you can. Black pepper, right? Put it in your orange juice, blend it up in your fruits. Okay. The gut. What about the gut? Healing the gut, right? Healing the gut. Having probiotics, right? Having some probiotics. You have to restore. Maybe there's gut issues going on. Are you experiencing gut issues, gut health issues? You want to restore the microbiome. You want to avoid allergens, right? Those food allergens, some food allergens, maybe, and some good food allergens. Here we go. And you find these things in a lot of foods, right? Wheat is a gluten grain, right? Gluten. Maybe you need to avoid gluten. Corn, soy. You already know a lot of the corn and soy, you already know that they're genetically modified, right? A lot of them are genetically modified, corn and soy. Avoiding certain vegetable oils, avoiding certain oils, I should say, right? Because all these things are genetically modified. It could be the things and how things are made now, but these things could be throwing you off. We don't know, right? We don't know yet. So we have to make sure that we are doing what we can to eliminate and prevent these things. Avoiding gluten, avoiding corn, soy, pasteurized dairy, right? Avoiding, you may be somebody that needs to avoid all grains, lectins, right? Nightshades, vegetables, right? Some people can't eat tomatoes, right? tomatoes, certain grains, certain beans, right? That's certain legumes that's high in lectins. We have to do our investigation. We have to research. We have to see. That's why I mentioned when I talked to you about having a food journal, how that can be very helpful, right? That can be very helpful to you. And then what's your reaction after you eat it? How do you feel afterwards? Your body is always giving you signals, always giving you messages, right? It's always giving you a message, always letting you know. What are some dietary adjustments that we can make? I already went over them, right? Maybe you could low carb, high fat, which some would call a keto diet, right? This can help support your thyroid by reducing inflammation, right? As well as stabilizing your blood sugar and promoting weight management. So there's some benefits to these adjustments that you make, right? You already know that stress is not good, right? The cortisol levels in the body increases. This can cause inflammation in the body, right? So we want to reduce the carbo intake. We need to monitor. If you're diabetic, you need to watch your sugar intake, right? Because we know that it can cause insulin spikes and stress out the thyroid, right? And stress the thyroid. Eliminate goiterogenic foods. Listen, foods high in goitrogens. I just went over that. Soy, cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli and kale, as well as cauliflower. Again, I already talked about corn, right? So I'm just following my notes. Corn, you could reduce it or eliminate it, okay? Autoimmune paleo diet, all right? This includes eliminating grains, wheat, corn, dairy, especially pasteurized dairy, right? As well as legumes, right? This can calm the immune system, reducing inflammation and restoring balance to the body, right? Restoring that balance. Remember, the body needs to be in harmony, in sync, right? And your body is always working to maintain homeostasis, okay? Gut healing the gut. This is incorporating pre and probiotics to heal your gut and restore the microbiome. This is key. Remember when I talk about the gut and the mind are not separate, right? Because things can impact your gut. Things can impact, which can therefore impact things in the brain, right? These are stuff that I talked about a lot of times. Having more bone broth, maybe having some fermented foods, such as sauerkraut, right? Pickles, gut-friendly foods that's going to help improve the microbiome in the body, right? You want to avoid the toxins. And that's where doing a fast or a cleanse can help you, right? I talked about the filtered water. It's contaminated with these things such as chlorine, fluoride, and fluoride and bromine, right? These things can displace iodine and disrupt thyroid function, right? It can displace iodine and disrupt thyroid function. Filtered water, right? It helps to filter out some of the toxins, most of the toxins anyway, right? A liver detox, right? And for those who consume a lot of alcohol, you may want to actually cut back on your alcohol consumption. You know how much alcohol, remember, alcohol is only sugar, right? And what happens, you see, I gave a perfect example with Wendy Williams, former talk show host Wendy Williams, and how she was diagnosed with liver alcohol-induced dementia. And she had thyroid issues. What was it that she has? She had is it Graves? I think it's Graves, where she has the hyperthyroidism, right? Hyperthyroid with the bulging eyes, weight loss, things like that. We got to be careful, right? Right? Household sprays, right? Household aerosols. Switching to that. Sometimes even your personal care products. We might need to go with more natural stuff, avoiding the food additives. Get a diffuser instead of the aerosol spray, right? Managing your stress. Remember, chronic stress can cause the T3 to become less effective, right? And it can exacerbate thyroid problems. So incorporate stress-reducing practices, meditation, deep breathing, yoga, fitness, exercise, making sure that we're getting enough oxygen to the brain, right? Avoiding caffeine, right? Still have your tea. You can have your tea and you're just decaffeinated, okay? We want to make sure we are being more mindful, right? You can have supportive supplements, right? But this depends on the actual individual, right? If someone who already has a thyroid issue and having some major issues with their thyroid, they need to speak with their doctor first to see if they are iodine deficient and what certain things to eat or to avoid. Again, like I already stated, because remember, sometimes the supplements can do more harm than good, depending on where they're at, right? With their iodine levels. Okay. Now, some good things that you can take, which I always take all the time. So that's why I'm concerned, with me. Selenium, I need to get some selenium. Okay. So I'm going over, there's also just a few here. Some things that you can take, right? Selenium, zinc, vitamin D, and magnesium. These essential vitamins and supplements are essential for thyroid health. Selenium, zinc, magnesium, vitamin D. Okay. Probiotics, right? And digestive enzymes can support gut healing. Okay. Probiotics and digestive enzymes can support gut healing. We can't shove everything in our mouth, right? We can't shove everything in our mouth because what we eat matters. What we eat matters. Okay. And I'm not saying if you do something once in a while, okay, but this has to be something that's ongoing all the time, right? So for me, right, I'm using myself as an example. I need to now pay attention even more, right? Pay attention even more because now I'm looking at the data and the data is showing a decrease. So why is that happening, right? Why is that happening? Could it be related to the osteoarthritis? Could it be related to that? Maybe, right? And so this is where your turmeric shots can help, doing your exercise to alleviate the rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis. Unfortunately, that's what I have. Okay. I'm learning how to live with it, right? I learn how to live with it. I exercise. I do what I can to ease the pain, to ease any pain I may be feeling, right? And that's about it. I wanted to cover this. I thought this was important. I wanted to just go over this some more. And I was doing some more reading and some research, and I learned more about the whole thyroid and the conversion process, about that T4, right? And that T4, how it converts the T4 to T3, right? So all of these things impact the hormone. There's even, this even can affect the fertility, right? Menstrual cycles, heavy periods, right? Not the inability to get pregnant, fertility issues, right? So we need to really take notice and be mindful. And so that's why I wanted to cover this and make this a part 2. All right. So if you have any questions or concerns or anything that you'd like to share, regarding your own health, your own issues with thyroid issues, and maybe something you learned, right, that you're willing to share, please post in the comment, share. All right. And until next week. All right. Bye for now. Stay safe, stay blessed, get your thyroid checked, get those labs done. Okay. All right. And until next time, bye for now.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Health Coach for Women with Marsha Roopchand-Walker. If you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.